Welcome, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jeff Carpenter. I am the founder of Dimensions of Heaven and Earth here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I would also like to share that I am truly honored to have been inducted into the Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem, the Knights Templar. That foundation, that information, that excitement that I derive from that service unites with my esoteric work. It unites with my practice, it unites with my spirituality, it unites with my rule, as they call it in the Templars. This new series, The Templar Spirit, is designed to discuss how we can reunite spirituality and science. If you've heard any of my other videos, you know I'm all about that, because that practice really does reunite mind, body, and spirit into the practice of our spiritual work. We can't really talk about the Templars without focusing on how they were formed. The Templars are a perfect example of how science and spirituality created the tools they used for their worship, for their building, for their rituals, even for their initiations, as well as how they then moved forward with the Word of God in their services. To serve is the greatest gift that you can give. The Templars, the real Templars, we don't want to confuse some of what we see as the Crusaders that weren't necessarily the researchers, librarians, the practitioners of the Knights Templar. But you really can't talk about that unless you focus on their foundation. And one of their co-founders actually canonized, created a saint by the Catholic Church, is Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. Looking at his history back in the 12th century, he was everywhere. He was known everywhere. He had influence over kings, queens. He backed, during the heresy discussions, he backed Pope Innocent and helped him to then win the papacy during that process. But a lot is overlooked by the discussion in the church, let's say, historical logs, because he's also the patron saint of the Knights Templar. That drive, the discussions of what they're supposed to become, how they're supposed to behave, the poor Knights of Christ. He wrote most of what's in there. He created that. He was also a mystic. His belief, his understanding, and some of his entire connection to everyone around him included the fact that his mysticism pushed forward how he was going to favor experience. Rather than, I'm going to seek knowledge and I'm going to believe so that I can understand, he favored the idea of, I believe so that I may experience. How do I research? How do I find? How do I personalize my connection to the divine, to God? And then how do I inspire the Knights Templar looking to protect the pilgrims, truly looking to serve God, in the recognition of our defense, our success? The glory goes to God. Looking at his mysticism, looking at even his belief in Mary, the Virgin Mary, Mother Mary of Jesus. He was a Mariologist. She became a mediator. He created tons of documentation venerating her, talking about why, as the mother of the Christ in human form, had so many setbacks, had so many successes, and was a truly chosen woman in order to guide the human that was Jesus as he was learning to be the Christ. Looking at St. Bernard, looking at what they shared, discussing, thinking about all of the things that he promoted, it wasn't just about how he was going to preach. It also included that he was, in that time, bloodline connected to so many different people. He created at least 60, probably about 70, different monasteries and churches throughout his career, throughout his life. But he was also blood connected to family members, let's say the King of Portugal, the first King of Portugal, the Hugh de Payens, the Knights Templar founders, the different monasteries, the monk orders that were looking to promote what he was practicing. He had those connections, but it's because he could find that personal experience. He could understand and practice his spirituality, his alchemy, allowing those pieces to say those are all tools for a closer, more powerful connection to healing, to information, even sometimes to the visions where Martin Luther has given a lot of credit to Saint Bernard for his definition of why the ritual and the book and the information and the discussions of his paths then are applicable even in the future. This new series, using the Templars as the tradition of finding knowledge, unifying God with their spirituality, is going to take an entire journey with ways that people, we hope, really want to broaden their horizons. This is the time to start dropping some of those shields that don't serve us anymore. You've gone from coping into thriving. And we'll talk at another time how I became a Templar, but with St. Bernard, he talks exactly about what we need to be looking for. For example, there are those that seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge. That is curiosity. There are those who seek knowledge to be known by others. That is vanity. And there are those who seek knowledge to be of service and to serve others, and that is love. Look into the types of boundaries you've built in order to survive. Are they blinding you to a larger cause? Are you throwing away things that, because of some offense or slight, you could be using and that do benefit you? Think about the practice of unification, and science and spirituality will join. Thank you for joining us today, and be on the lookout for new episodes and much larger discussions on how the Knights Templar and their rule and their tradition will help us unify spirituality and science. Thank you for your time.